Jeanette. I'm calling from Truckee, California.
Truckee, California. Hi, Jeanette.
Hi.
Hi.
Good morning, Cliff. Thank
Good morning.
you so much. Been following you for a few years now. And mine actually dovetails on that silver question. And I was just wondering, because you didn't really state in the last reports kind of where you thought it was going to end, do you still see that max silver price? But you kind of answered that in a way. And then the other question I have is, so is that max number, I forget, I don't know, I'm not looking for an exact number, but like high, 5,000, whatever it was, still in play? 2, will there be time to convert before, from what I'm reading from you, it's really not the monetary gain. We're headed for stuff much more dire.
That's my
I'm
opinion.
like, okay, well, I have time to convert. You know, the timing. I don't know how to say that.
And Jeanette and Cliff, there's also a question, say silver goes, say, to $1,000 an ounce. You know, what's $1,000 going to buy?
That's
Correct.
the issue. That's the issue,
That's
right?
an
And
issue.
I've got a lot of my friends here that, and especially these people that have been with me for years reading my stuff that are silver and metal traders. And I keep pointing out to them, you know, you're going to get caught out because there won't be the ability to make this transfer or this trade. So, yeah, you'll have the silver, and you could convert it to some astronomical number of dollars, but the dollars won't buy anything, and you may not find anybody who really wants to give it to you. I look back to the 1930s and the previous Great Depression. There were counties in the U.S. that were so poor for currency, they could not provide change out of that whole county for a single $5 silver piece.
It's interesting. That's what my mom said. She said there just wasn't any money. Literally, there wasn't money.
Right.
Because they cut off the spigot.
If you're following, you know, there's a lot of different views, but so you're preparing for calorie based. You're doing all these different stuff. If you have, say you have, you know, a bunch of silver hoarded in your, you know, in your dog's bed or something.
Right.
And,
That's a good spot, yeah.
Could you, do you see in the linguistics that people are going to be able to trade out? Because I think the goal is that you would trade out into notes and then you would get more stuff, pay off more.
That's the way the linguistics go. They actually do not show us being in a situation where trading for ferns, for Federal Reserve notes, is meaningful. They do show a position where we're trading silver for cows or, you know, that kind of thing.
Okay.
So that would argue for, you know, like silver dollars, for example, so you had an ounce where you wouldn't have big chunks of bars, which Andrew argues against because maybe somebody doesn't want 100 ounces of silver bar.
Or couldn't get
what are you
the
gonna do
change
with
to
it?
begin with.
Yeah,
Correct.
and then they might not even know it's real. That's why Andrew argues for this real money. Because
and then just one quick follow-up is, when do you see the time frame on that? Do you see it, is it like July, November, January?
Everything starts breaking seriously with the crocodile teeth in July.
This July?
This July, on the 11th.
Wow.
We actually had a precursor on currencies expected. We knew there was going to be a pre-echo of whatever was going to hit us in late July, early August, and that pre-echo would show up in the late February, first part of March. I really don't need to go into why we knew about it, but the echo showed up as relating to currencies. At that time, Greece had its real problems. Greece started threatening to redo the drachmas. There were rumors out that they were going to start reissuing the German mark. The EU was in trouble because of the Greece situation, and we see all of the derivatives start piling up. And so that whole trend, if you look at what's happening right now, is being fulfilled. So I expect a lot more language relative to currency and corruption in late July through August that will have a major impact from that point forward. And so, indeed, that could be the time that we see silver and gold start really taking off relative to the currencies of the planet. And is it going to be the point of the dollar death? I don't know. But I sure suspect by November the Fed will be very irrelevant, and as of November 8th, it may not even be issuing. Yeah, we can hope. We can hope. At some point, the cabal is going to go away. The issue is going to be whether or not we actually have the more dire results of, you know, people hunting down Greenspan and former presidents and you know, gutting them and using their guts to strangle priests, that kind of thing. We've got language that goes to that level of horror.
All right. Well, thanks so much,
Yeah,
and just really appreciate you. And I think it is curious how we, in the U.S. anyway, are so narcissistic, right? It's all about our currency and all. So
Yes, I know.
It's kind of funny. Anyway, all right. Thanks much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Well, to argue the point, though, our currency or the dollar, they have a 80% market share, so it is the world's reserve currency.
Well, and also most dollars are held outside the U.S., which gets us into a strange situation.
4 times the amount of dollars outside the United States.
Right, so dollars may actually end up being a global currency that continues for some period of time simply because they're recognized, but they may be backed by local goat herds for all I know.
Well, that's what Andrew argues, Cliff. The Dollar Inc., the brand, they're still building it, so it's not going anywhere. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we do have a situation, though, where within the U.S. and within our data sets, the dollar death, specifically within the confines of the continental U.S., will be very firm by March of 2011, and it may relate to the revolution meme itself.
Yeah, where people... Oh, okay. So then they can keep the dollar rate going because 4 times is still circulating outside the country.
Yeah, but they can't keep the dollar game going if they're hanging from a lamppost.
No,
That's really the issue that's going to be occurring now, is how long will the large majority of the populace tolerate being ruled by these mobsters and criminals?
That's a great question. I have people that say that the boys, the people who control the Federal Reserve, that they have millions of acres in Uruguay just planning if they ever have to leave it late in the middle of the night. Have you heard about that?
Sure, yeah. In fact, we've been able to use Google and some of these other services to find the vent systems for the underground dwellings in the areas in Paraguay. Mm-hmm. And it's like the Swedes say, hiding in a hole in the ground won't lengthen your life a single day.
But how many times have we seen this in history, like in the case of Batista and all of the different dictators? That's what they do. About midnight, they just load up the jeeps and pull out.
But that's within a world where there is the support for that from the boys. If the boys themselves are under attack, they're not going to care very much what happens to the minions.
Oh.
Okay, and everybody short of the boys are indeed minions. And the time has turned. This is no longer regular time. We'll never go back to what existed in the previous century. This last decade has been a very brief period of transition. We have evidence to provide that provides us a view that time indeed has hardened, if you will, and major trends are coming to an end. The Piscean age is over. The era of the faith-based religions is over. 20 years from now, the Vatican will be a distant memory of a criminal cabal of pedophilic Satan worshippers, and it's going to go with all of them because the whole time has changed.
So you're arguing that this really is at the end of the Piscean age and the whole,
we are at the Eschaton.
Yeah,
correct.
The whole 2012 kind of phenomenon, that there is something up here, and so just because it's never happened before, or what we know of or remember, it doesn't mean it can't happen now.
Okay, and you're quite incorrect. It has happened before. We do remember. We have a history going back millions of years.
You're talking Lemuria or Atlantis?
No. I'm talking Sumeria, Egypt, Mayan history, all the history going back. If you look at the out-of-place artifacts and read just even in the regular woo-woo world, you can put together a real good history that goes back through many of these different cycles. Mm-hmm. The carbon-14 cycle, for instance, tells us that there is a periodicity of about 11,500 to about 12,800 years between these catastrophes. We know that the precession of the equinoxes changes. Why should that be? Well, it's because of catastrophes, all of which relates to the sun, and look what the sun's been doing, and especially relative to the volcano. Curious that we have a huge prominence pop off, and we had the Chilean earthquake. A little while later, we have another huge prominence pop off, and we have the volcano go. We've got more prominences going. By the 2012, you might see as many as 50 or 80 prominences on the sun. These are the filaments, the flares. It will make a very angry sun face when you see that. It's time to take serious preparations to, get your soul and your affairs in order and do those things you can for the people around you, because time is extremely short. And by the way, we're seeing things happen with the flares that are atypical. And if you go and ask NASA, what's the average lifetime of a solar prominence or a sunspot-associated filament, and they'll tell you, well, the average lifespan is measured at about 7 hours. And we've had them exist 7 days, and then they pop off, and we get an 8.8 earthquake. So things ain't right.
Things ain't right. Can I quote you on that? Clif?
Yeah, go right ahead.
What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Hello?
Are you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. Go ahead.
Yeah, okay. I'm in Oregon, and I have two questions. I'm wondering if you have got any information on the new Madrid fault, if it's likely to go soon, and also about the other volcanoes in Iceland, Katla, the other ones, if you think they are going to erupt.
New Madrid in the Midwest and Iceland.
Yeah, we have we have information for New Madrid, but as an adjunct to other activity in the earthquakes. Bear in mind, this year we didn't even do any earthquake forecasting because there was just going to be so many. It just was not worth detailing individual ones. So even if New Madrid goes, it will not be the big one for that period of time. It'll just be one of all of the others. And yes, there will be a great many more volcanic eruptions, and it may be that we see a great increase in all of this kind of stuff starting in July relative to the magnetosphere and the destruction of the return current sheet back to the sun.
Yeah, okay. How many big earthquakes do you think there will be this year?
Depending on how we grade it, we saw 7 great earthquakes, 7 earthquakes of such magnitude that they would qualify, like the Chilean and the Haiti quake, as being major damage. So the recent one in China may not qualify. I think we still have about another 5 left. We may have 4 or so. It's a question of interpretation as to whether 10,000 people displaced and 700 killed qualifies as one of the quakes we saw. That may be just a small one amongst the other great ones.
Oh, okay.
Thank you for the call. What's your first name? Where are you calling from? Hello? Oop, lost that one. 888-663-6386. Andrew Goss and the Real World of Money should be a good one tomorrow. Live, 10 a.m. Central. Dr. Harvey Beagleson looks at my blood analysis. He's been doing live blood analysis for many years on Thursday. And Dr. Beagleson was recommended by David Icke, so he's a trip. Here's an email from Will. Any more insights, Clif, or updates about the gap? And what is the gap?
We have a data gap that initially showed up in 2003 or thereabouts. I first noticed it, but I didn't pay much attention to it. The gap was in data that was in the period from about early 2012 through to about May of 2013. The gap still exists. The curious part of this is that we know it's not an artifact of our processing, because if it was, the gap would always stay 7 or 10 years ahead of us, and it would always stay that distance away. And in fact, it is staying associated with 2012, and as we get closer to it, it's sort of like working its way through our data types the way, a snake may digest a pig, that kind of a deal, right? You'll be able to see it, but it doesn't always stay in the same spot as the snake. Mm-hmm. And so the data gap is an area where we just do not have data coming on in that allows us to make an interpretation of what's going on there.
Several questions about the dollar, and this one from Rick in Florida kind of sums it up. You have previously said the dollar would die by next November. Do you still see that? So recap on the dollar, folks.
We still see that the dollar will be irrelevant. It'll be dead insofar as people in the United States are concerned. We're seeing it now with the destruction of the dollar's purchasing power, and that may be how it goes down, is that it just gets to the point where there's, it's hyperinflation and it takes you $10,000 to buy a loaf of bread, that kind of thing.
I see. 888-663-6386. Hi, what's your first name? Where are you calling from?
Hi, my name is Robert. I'm calling from Phoenix.